Let me jump one last thing too. You have to create the services that the corporates want. It's like if you had a restaurant, I'm not going to cook the food that I like to eat, but my customers don't. So when I say that, it's, we talk to institutions and corporates all day, every day. It's removing the volatility. How do you give them what they need to feel confident to take that step? We're very in tune with that. And I think that's what we do a really good job at.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the XDC MENA Podcast, where we talk about blockchain, innovation, projects, technology, and of course, about the XDC Network. I am Rebecca Dawson, XDC Network's lead of ecosystem development and your host. So, joining me today are two great directors from XDC Foundation, Matthew Weisenthal and Billy Sebell. So, guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
All right, it's pleasure having the OGs at the MENA Podcast. So let's get started. Please do a quick introduction of yourself and what does your role at XDC Foundation?
So I'm Billy Sebell. I'm the executive director of the XDC Foundation. And, I've basically been primarily here to build the ecosystem. I mean, that's really ultimately all of what we do and at the foundation. But, we've really been focused on the support and development of the ecosystem and anything that we can do from the technology side and to really building out the utility. And especially what we're doing now is a large focus on RWAs.
I am Matt Weisenthal. I am a director also at the foundation. My focus is primarily on integrations and pretty much everything RWA. I lead the plug and play accelerator in Silicon Valley. And really look at what we need to bring on to the ecosystem for our protocols built in XDC to utilize in the corporates, to be able to utilize to actually their business done, right? So what tools, what services, and a lot of those relationships kind of go through me. That's my primarily function, my sole focus here.
Thank you for the introduction. So, Billy, you started as a head of ecosystem at Zinfin, right? How was the network and community back then, and how did you transition to be a director?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were not many of us. So I think at the time, if I go back, I really found XDC in early 2018. Sometime November, I ended up meeting Atul in the States. There was a event going on, and so we ended up getting together there and started to, I guess, really communicate around what could we do. In my case, really, what could I do to help develop the network? And so myself and Atul and Ritesh were in frequent conversation around things. I think really from the standpoint of people within the community were coming up with a question, and I would find out whether it was actually real or not. So there's all these speculations about are we working with this person or doing this with that person or this bank or that bank, and so I would check in with the tool, and I would then feed the information back to the community. And so I call it like it's my 3-year interview process. Really, I was from 2018 to 2020, we were really just kind of going through that, building the community and really looking at, what is it that we could do to get the word out. And I think at that time, there's probably about 5 of us on Twitter. And so when we would go out and we would tweet something, it would be something like where, we'd be like, okay, who else is going to, retweet this? And, you'd have 5 shares. And so we just kept on trying to come up with more stuff to share and ways to build a community. And now you've got people that, you just don't even know who's tweeting. It's just amazing to see.
Such an early beginning, as you mentioned, you only got 5 likes or share, but look what happened now. Right. And to you, Matthew, how did you come into your role as a director, and how did the network grow since 2021?
Sure. So, we joke around back in those days. So I think Billy and I were one of the two of the first 12 members in the community or something. But I had known Billy for really 2-3 years and didn't even know his first name. We just had this shared enjoyment of, following this token. It's kind of like rooting for a sports team or something, right? But when Billy started working for Zinfin, I think it kind of changed just overall perspectives among, some of the more serious members, and wait, I think, we can actually help this project move forward. And Billy, the captain of the ship, he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, Matt, we have a lot of stuff to do. Like, do you want to work?" And fast forward 12 months later, we didn't take a day off. It was, we need to get every exchange. We need to get every partnership. We need, Sal, the other, our director of comms, he had to get our messaging clear, and we had to actually, what are we trying to say here? So it was like a firestorm. I thought I was going to work at Allstate forever. And Billy just made it kind of real. And the difference is, instead of the three people just going hard, there's a different, in every region, there is a, XDC Japan, XDC Australia. There's so many people every single day all over the world building. And the fact that we were able to you know, jumpstart that and really kind of get it moving is something, it's really great to see.
Right. It started single or two members and then expanded regionally and locally. So yeah, Billy, as Matthew said, you were the captain and you assembled the team, right? So there are other directors for sure. So who are they? What are their roles in advancing the network's mission?
Well, there's the five of us: myself, Matt, Sal, Nick, and Shane. Sal's, as Matt had mentioned, is focused on comms, and we have a comms team that's working every day to put together all of the news, the happenings. We have the weeklies, we've got the Twitter handle, we've got everything we're doing in terms of getting the stories published. And Nick has really handled a lot of the back end for the financial side um, of the network, or the foundation, I should say. And Shane really came on as for helping us with contracts and compliance. And the thing, though, to note around that is that we're a collective process. So from the beginning, really, we sit down, and when it comes to a contract or something that we need to do in negotiation, we're really looking through and discussing, why do we want to do this? What's the benefit to the network? And we're very collaborative around that. And so we decide together on how to move forward. And then beyond that, there's another 7 or so different team members who are out there working on the comms team, or development, security, or other integration type of focuses that we have. And a lot of that is really, we have the protocol team, which is dispersed, but they're usually in the east somewhere. So they're in India, or they're in Australia, they're in China, or somewhere in the world. And we were talking about this at one point. We would be in 2019, something would be going on with the network, or to early 2020, and we'd say, oh, we would be up, and so everybody else would be asleep. And we'd have to reach out to somebody. We're like, we gotta find a nil.
Where's
And yeah, where's a nil? And it was like, we were thinking, I don't think he ever slept. It was just they were Nil and his team, Onkar, all these guys, they were out there just working and supporting the protocol side. And we were really working collaboratively. So there's a lot of people. When you say OGs, yeah, okay, so we've been here a long time. There's a lot of people that have been here a long time too. And we couldn't be doing it ourselves without them. They're the ones that built the backbone of the network.
Right. Matt, anything you need to add? Let's not miss.
Yeah, we don't want to miss anybody, because we really have, our focus is the comms and the messaging, but then we have our developers and project managers like Rohit and Quincy and Solomon. Everybody knows Quincy Jones. Kathy is
Nick.
Nick is a director. Nick is crucial. Sebastian, everybody has, if they're here, it's because they have been here for a long time and they know how to really do their job. There's true ownership here. But yeah, it really is the developers, watching everybody kind of work together. versus those old days where if like, you kind of had to wait on, if you didn't have the one guy, like you kind of waited until he was there. But, and I thank you and no, because you've done everything. Like, but now, if there's an issue, we have not just our teams, but other teams in network too. So it's security at its progress. It's keeping value safe. It's keeping our community members safe.
Right. Collectively, these individual teams or these individuals will contribute to the betterment of the XDC network. So, yes, looking back, guys, being the OGs, being part of the network on its early years, what do you think are the milestones that we achieved so far? Big ones, be it if it's technical or non technical.
I think XDC.org and, Sal and the comms team and what they've really created there, was able to really put into words what the ethos of this community is. Like, success depends on your network, right? It's not, the tech matters, but XDC is about the community. It's about everyone that's involved in this. So XDC.org really has become like this. It's a living example of what we are. I hear all the time, it's crazy. I get on calls and people are just like, your website is so different than everything else, right? Like, and that's really what Sal has done. That just, in my opinion, he gets MVP. Is the message is everything. But I would also say the launch of USTY for me was really important to actually have regulated U.S. treasuries on chain. That was important. For a long time there was a lot of, what we're going to do and what's coming. And now, when you actually see delivery of these things and like the time that kind of goes into getting a regulated product launched, like it's not just, a lot of people might not know, but it's a process and trade tech team and how hard they work. So yeah, those two are my two big ones.
One thing about it is, I've said for a long time, it's like, we've been like paving the road while we're driving on it. That's something that, is really, when it came to tokenization, if you look at what's going on today, there's a lot of people out there a lot of projects, even other layer ones who are saying, oh yeah, we're doing tokenization. You go to a show now, everyone's like, we tokenize. And, we're one of those projects that you can look back on those protocols, or you can say, we've been doing this for 4 years. And so you take Tokeny, for example, who's coming into the accelerator. They've been doing it for 7 years. There are people who have been out there doing a lot of work. And I think that, the milestone in itself is just the journey. We've been able to come as far as we have. And now we're at a point where you've got plug and play here, but you can look at little things as they've happened. Bringing on Securitize allowed us to get USTY onto the network. And, all of these things really worked hand in hand. One thing didn't work without the other, and getting the right custodian was important. And, who was regulated and where, and there's fits and starts. So there's a lot of things that have happened over time. And I think that now what you're seeing is, kind of the coming together of all of these things, and the plug and play accelerator is one of those aspects of coming together. I mean, there's other accelerators that are doing, similarly important things on the network, but different. And, together, again, those will be milestones that will bring us towards, what comes next. And all of that's really equally important.
Right. It's a collective effort. And Matthew, I love the part where you say the success of network is more than the tech behind it. I totally agree with you. For me, it's also, partnering with the institutions, forging meaningful partnerships, and of course, nurturing the ecosystem and the community members.
Yeah. And I should say, to that point, success at Pennsylvania Network it's not just the technical network,
Right.
so the emphasis really is, even more importantly, on the people. And, we got a lot of good people here, right? And it's a network that's really been building. So, you can see it.
So yeah, now that we have seen the journey, right, and looking back over those years, what do you think, or what's the roadmap for XDC Foundation?
Really, it's getting real value onto this network. So it's uh, seeing real yield. So off-chain profit being generated that gets used as on-chain rewards. So actually having institutions be able to lock capital to invest in a product, and while their capital is invested, earn a yield that can then be reinvested in either other projects or other products that they own, or other startups, but essentially real value coming on chain. And what this does is it eventually it creates this pool of capital on chain that then allows for like under collateralized lending. We haven't seen that in crypto yet. We haven't seen the same accessibility on chain that you have off chain. And if a business and if a person is going to take the step into the digital space, they need that accessibility. They need all those tools and the infrastructure that they have off chain. So I think now, like we've been talking about over the last 8 years, we've put together we have brought all the pieces here, right? Now it's everybody is using those pieces to kind of make their own puzzles. It's very cool, but that's the next game. It's the 0 to 1 moment. It's getting capital on chain. We say it, TVL, TVL. That's it.
Lovely analogy with the pieces and then making your own puzzle. And yeah, Billy, anything you want to share on the roadmap?
Ultimately, we're really looking at bringing utility on chain. So, the collateral that, or the funds that come on that go into tokenized assets or can be used as collateral into DeFi. And, these are the kinds of things that we're really looking at what we can do. And I think that when you look at the accelerator that's being put together here, we're looking at how we're able to bring these pieces together that are going to be able to help move that forward. And, you can't have the development and growth of the network when you're doing what we're doing without the utility. So utility is really, really, really important. And, that also is like continued growth in the community because we're really ultimately a community driven product. We came from the community. We see people in the community who are now taking up the mantle. There's a motivation support group on Twitter that's been created. And there are people who are leading that, who are really just trying to bring people together and educate people on what's going on. And so, we're looking at the growth of what's happening there and seeing what's happening there. And, we couldn't have asked for anything more if we went back a few years ago and somebody asked us, we would never imagine in our wildest dreams that that's really what's going on. Um, but, you can't have one without the other. If you're building utility, you're building it for somebody. And so having the community is really key. So I think those are two really important components of what we're looking at as far as what we're really
Products that people are going to use.
Totally agree with you guys in utility. Utility is important. So yes, we covered earlier about the plug and play and XDC RWA accelerator. But if anyone can actually share more information to this, and how is it different from the other accelerator from other blockchains and our existing accelerator program?
So we are in year one of a 3-year a deal where essentially we have created the first enterprise RWA focused accelerator. And when you think of an accelerator, most of the time you're going to think of fresh, brand new, kind of recently launched projects. And that was never the plan with us. We really have brought in some of the most legitimate projects in the space, like Clearpool and Plume Network and Tokeny and Touch Blockticity, Credify, Polytrade. And these guys are established. They don't need help with their messaging, but what they do want to do or what they need to do is to collaborate with each other and XDC, but then to also use Plug and Play's partner network to help really work with these corporates and kind of be that trusted source. So like Plug and Play kind of makes that match. But yeah, we brought on an all-star team, and that's really the difference. This isn't like, oh, we're just trying to get their value prop. We're actually trying to deliver products that change the world.
Well, to add to that, I would say, and Matt was kind of alluding to the fact that, accelerators are often very early stage startups, and everybody in the space is really a startup at this stage still. But we've looked at companies or projects that are already established or really building real stuff. They've got a foothold in what it is that they're doing, and there's a value add that they can bring to the network. So the vision around an RWA accelerator that makes it different is that we're really looking at what are the key components that each of these projects can bring and what can they add to the ecosystem together so that the sum total of their parts are more valuable than the individual pieces. And I think that's really critical when you're looking at what it is that we're trying to do, because we want people to come in and be able to tokenize and bring liquidity onto the network in a way that it has to be easy. And making it easy is really kind of like having that one click ability to do something, or here's a white label platform, it's ready to go. And the steps to walk through that is really very simple, straightforward. And we're bringing the education around that, and we're working with Plug and Play and their partners in order to like really bring that orientation and growth within that group, so that that's really you know the ultimate goal, people coming together. And I think it's Matt's done a great job, the team's done a great job, and I think we've made great strides, and looking forward to seeing it develop further.
Right. So it focused on tokenizing RWA. This was touched a bit by Billy, but Matthew, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Why do you think tokenizing RWA is such a high priority for XDC Network? And how will this program support that mission?
For sure. It's really everything, right? So a tool, like, I just remember him talking in 2018 about trade finance and the importance for SMEs, closing the trade finance gap. Tokenization of the real world assets allows for the jumpstart of everything tokenized, right? So once you get the value on chain and you create the standards to do so, right? Like, how do you actually do this? How do you do it in a way that conforms with regulations? Everything else will come after that's accomplished. So I think with us, it's like, how do we really bring that capital on chain that becomes this economy? I know with Plug and Play, especially, like, our it wasn't just about let's graduate, get these projects on, they graduate and they go back on their way. These are long-term partnerships. These are collaborations that now that as different teams have gotten together and we really are understanding each other's vision and how we want to kind of march together, like, it's an all boats rise situation. Like, we can't win alone. There's a big enough pie for all of us to win. It's just, in our opinion, the most important game to tackle is RWAs, anything of value.
And how do you guys think this will strengthen institutional and enterprise, interest to the XDC network, especially that compliance and regulations is tapping this use case?
Well, I mean, for one, I mean, we've always really operated from the standpoint of we want to be ready when any kind of regulatory, official regulatory, rules pass. You see stuff happening in the U.S. stablecoin, all of these things. We've really looked at how we can be in a position where we don't have to go back and say we're going to recreate, what we've started. And so when we're looking at what we're doing here, we're looking at people who are also doing that. They're also paying attention to those things. So people are kind of like ready for what's coming next, or prepared to, do what they need to do to continue on the path that they're on. And I think what's really critical about what it is that we're doing is, like said a little bit earlier, it's just kind of like taking the components that make the most sense and bringing things together so that, we're offering the best possible services we can around it. We want the in terms of everybody working together, we want people to be able to come together, because the bottom line is, and Matt mentioned, I think, ethos earlier, like, you can't build anything alone. You have to do these things together. And we're stronger together because of that. And so we're bringing as many people in as we can in order to make that happen. And I think that's really critical.
Let me jump one last thing too. You have to create the services that the corporates want. It's like if you had a restaurant, I'm not going to cook the food that I like to eat, but my customers don't. So when I say that, it's, we talk to institutions and corporates all day, every day. It's removing the volatility, right? So they want to be able to forecast, they want to be able to plan. I think we're going to start getting away from, tokens earning more tokens and liquid staking. Like, we're seeing stable coins are not just here, they're the future. So creating products where the yield is earned in the non-volatile stable coin. How do you do that? How do you give them what they need to feel confident to take that step? we're very in tune with that. And I think that's what we do a really good job at.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key, right? And so all the things that I just kind of like said are all of the things in which we hear from corporates and enterprises that they want to have happen in order to be on a network. And so uh, everybody's doing something. You go somewhere in the industry, you talk to any bank, you talk to any institution, everybody is saying, oh, we're doing this or we're doing that. And so we're aware of what's happening. So what we're trying to do is making sure that all the things that need to happen for them to be here are here. And then, we're able to offer it to them.
Exactly. XDC being an enterprise grade blockchain, this acceleration program will definitely, help support the mission of the network. So yes, I know that you guys had mentioned a bit of the names of the project who got selected, but please do it again. Let's do a drum roll, please.
Let me elaborate because I can actually make this kind of like an easier, this will make it kind of real. So when we looked at these startups, we said, like, what pieces, what do they actually do? How are they going to add value? So we started with like zero hash. If you want to be able to accept payments, and they're basically the Visa of crypto. If they are the back end, they're the credit card processor. We're like, well, we want to be able to allow corporates to be able to launch tokens seamlessly, but secure, tokeny. They have a white label solution. You can now launch their ERC standard on XDC. Easy. Blockticity, standards, certificates of attestation. These guys are like champs, and they've done over hundreds of thousands of these. So when you talk about transparent, audible data, right? They are the best at it. Plume Network, we are working on how do we get liquidity from their ecosystem? How can we have everything built on Plume also accessible in XDC? Like there's a reason. Polytrade and their RWA and AI focus. Like there is Touchbrick, AI and privacy tech. They're looking at launching private subnets that include that on XDC. These are all added pieces that just like make us stronger as a whole. It's really pretty fun.
Right. And hopefully it's going to be a long-term commitment, long-term partnership with them.
Oh yes. So the deal is one thing. We only, I think I say it like once a day, but like we don't pay for one service, or we have partnerships and collaborations. If they weren't, this is how we're going to march forward together. If that wasn't the case, they wouldn't be selected. There was over 100 applicants. Like we had to narrow it down to 10. So like these guys are all, we're like, they're part of the team.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like the way we build community. We're relationship builders. So, that's what we do with these projects. So, so, well, you don't fool yourself. We know what Matt does around that too. So, I mean, like, but that's really what it is. It's about how you show up and, what you do to, help people move along. And, are you aligned on vision, or where can you align? And, Plume, as an example, has like amazing fundamental tools that they've built onto their network, and looking at what they're doing, bringing that to the XDC network and being able to add to some of the things that we really want to build upon is really, really critical. And so, we're not afraid to say somebody may have done something better than us over there. Well, let's go and work with them to get it over here. So that's really kind of how we've always operated. Be respectful, pay respect to
Right.
people, and build off of, what you want to accomplish together.
I love that. Yeah, guys, it was very great having discussion with you. Any final message to the community members or viewers out there?
Well, look, we've been here a long time, and I think what's key and what we've really been talking about a lot here is to see how the communities continue to move forward, and we appreciate that so much in terms of seeing what has been built upon, what's been built upon, and we talk a lot about digging the well, and we feel like we just want to go out and expand that. We want more wells dug, and it's really comes from the individual. Whatever people want to give, whatever people want to contribute, we're really here to support that. So thank you to the community for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, and that's in that same tune. I think remembering what's made us successful and what's so valuable about XDC is really this community and our core values behind it. Remembering that every person has the ability to move it a step further, right? So join Telegram, get active. Like if you see this first, it's a little bit, it's not just a blockchain project and a token that you hold. There's a community here. And now, it's the coolest thing. Like, yeah, we might have been from the beginning, but like this is a family in this office. Every time I come to Dubai, it's just the best. So just remembering that and like leading with education and like not taking the shortcut, but like sometimes like what we want and what is are different. So just like read, understand, and then help the guy to next to you.
Thank you guys for the lovely, compelling, and heartfelt messages. So, if any viewer or community member wants to reach out to you directly, what's the best way?
For sure. So for me, it's easy. Matthew at XDC.org. On Twitter and Telegram, you might know me as Chain Gamer. But shoot me an email.
Well, we have all sorts of contacts through XDC.org, contact pages for specific things if people are looking for. Also on LinkedIn, the foundation page as well. I'm at Zinfin USA. I can be reached there. It's the best place to get me. If you're not in the chats, or you can call me up on one of those chats, some of the unofficial ones or whatnot. We usually see that and try to show up when we can.
Thank you again, guys, for sharing these invaluable insights about, sharing us the glimpse of the past, sharing what has been being built up to today, and exciting us for the future.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Guys, if anyone who wants to know more about XDC Network, please go to zinfin.org or participate to our forum or discussion by going to xdc.dev. So keep learning, keep exploring until the next episode.